Hello and welcome to the official E-Ken-omics 101 podcast. I'm your host as always, Ken. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce a very special guest as on the podcast today. He is my rationality, my voice of reason who I've managed to manifest into an actual being. And for clarification, I'll be referring to him as a separate person, just so none of you listening get confused. Anyways, before we start, what should I call you? What would you like to be called?
Toby.
Toby. Are you sure?
Yeah, Toby's fine.
Not like Chris, maybe Alex, perhaps.
No, Toby's fine.
Okay, Toby. Okay, so Toby. Today we're going to be talking about the malicious intent of digital advertising.
Okay.
Nowadays especially, everybody's sort of conscious of what's being shown to them. Even recently, right? Biden urged Congress to ban targeted advertising to kids and to stop collecting data on them. And the thing that worries me is that it sort of reaffirms that digital advertising can actually be harmful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes sense considering that, kids are a really vulnerable consumer group.
That's true.
They're incredibly impressionable. You tell a kid something, they'll believe you. And it's understandable that they need this regulation to stop them being manipulated because they lack the self-awareness and initiative to really stop themselves.
Yeah, see, that I understand, right? Because obviously kids like the awareness, but adults don't. Because personally, I don't have a problem with this issue now that I know about it. Of course, the underlying deceptive practices are wrong, and those engaging in them should be appropriately condemned. But
Yeah.
even without any regulation, as long as I'm aware of myself being manipulated, I feel as though I have enough autonomy to just shut off my device or just choose not to engage in social media. Right.
I mean,
Well, okay, so I don't mean to invalidate this issue, but I'm just finding it hard to understand why other people don't think the same. Obviously, like vulnerable groups like the children or elderly people.
Okay, look, I see where you're coming from. Okay, it's a good point.
Yeah.
We're all human beings. We're all capable of deciding what we like to engage in and what we want to choose to use and things like that. But I feel like you're kind of missing something here.
Okay.
These platforms are built from the ground up to be addictive. All right? Social media is designed to keep your attention for as long as it can. So people don't really want to be on it, but they feel compelled to,
That's true.
There's a stat from Influencer Marketing Hub. There are 4.5 billion active social media users across the globe, right? Putting that into context, that's 57.6% of the world's population. Okay, not accounting for duplicate or bot accounts, but we'll take it at face value.
Yeah.
Of those billions of users, each of them spend 2.5 hours on social media daily on average. Can you imagine the amount of targeted advertising and manipulation that can occur during that time?
Right.
It's crazy when you consider that your critical thinking skills are actively hampered and hindered the longer you're on social media.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I guess I feel like I'm not like other people. I feel like then maybe I have that awareness that other people don't.
I mean, you bought something off Instagram because of an ad the other day.
Yeah, but that was because I liked it, not because I was tricked into buying it.
But that's the whole point, You were shown something the algorithm knew you would like, and it successfully got you to buy it.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I'm not a god. I'm not impervious to manipulation. I'm just a human being. I can still be coerced into things. I'm going to be an honest and respectful man and put my hands up and say, yeah, I did get manipulated. In continuing to be respectful, I'll admit that, okay, maybe regulation might be necessary to stop people, even like me, from falling prey to these awful and despicable practices.
Yeah, exactly. And in that, I think it's important to discuss exactly why these issues brought about by digital advertising are so unethical.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point to discuss because, the reason why we need regulation to have advertising survive in the future is pivotal, And I think actors like the Advertising Standards Authority, they're a great institution for people who need to be validated and acknowledged when they feel troubled by advertising. And in any case, if you or anyone else has an issue with any sort of advertising and you just want to feel heard, you could simply just hop on down to the ASA website.
Really?
Yeah. And it's completely free.
No way.
So what are you waiting for? Complain to the ASA today.
Wait, was that an ethical advert?
It's fine. It's obvious it's an advert. Okay, so what I want to discuss now is, what exactly the ethical issues are with digital advertising, and I want to discuss it in the context of politics.
Okay.
And I know we sort of addressed this earlier, but I'm still debating how much regulation is actually needed, right? Because I'm just thinking, like, how effective is this manipulative function of digital advertising, right? Because let's look at one of the biggest platforms of digital advertising, which would be Meta. So one journalist at The Drum found that in 2021, Meta ads had an average click-through rate of 1.11%, which had actually decreased by 0.37% from the previous year.
Okay.
1.11%. That's 1.11% of all Meta users who successfully clicked on an ad. Right, to me, that doesn't seem very exploitative or harmful given the amount of people that aren't affected by this. So, my point is, does this really need to be regulated?
Well, it doesn't always take a click-through event for this manipulation to take place. We know that manipulation was extremely detrimental in the Cambridge Analytica scandal.
Right.
Propaganda was used to destabilize political opponents, and it was promoted through these advertising systems built by Meta.
That's true.
Remember, it was these algorithms and the usage of big data which gave Cambridge Analytica the knowledge to promote the kind of content that these consumers were likely to have a reaction towards, right? They fed these users the relevant propaganda, which triggered a response from them, and also actively distorted the truth.
Right.
There was a statistic from 2016: the 62% of all US adults on social media receive their news from social media, and according to Ipsos, of that 62%, 3/4 of them believed the misinformation being shown to them.
Oh wow. Okay.
I know, right? And any advert, anything aligning to the political ideals that they see becomes far more appealing to them, and anything conflicting with those ideals is just met with complete avoidance.
Right. And there was that term for it. It was like this effect. The
filter bubble.
Yes, the filter bubble. And it was by that guy, Eli Parisa.
That's the one.
And yeah, he perfectly explained how the deceitful nature of this artificially constructed echo chamber created by social media sort of kept people narrow-minded and less impartial, which sacrificed the objectivity of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think there's also another good point that in general, propaganda as a political tool to promote misinformation is just highly unethical purely because it's false.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There was that Facebook whistleblower in 2020, Sophie Zhang, who had revealed, she oversaw tons of political instances where propaganda and fake word-of-mouth bots were weaponized to bring questionable people into political power.
Right. Okay, so not only is propaganda dishonest, but in political advertising, it can affect change on even a national scale. Okay, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and even if you don't care about these political impacts, the data collection methods used by these companies impacts everyone's privacy, so it affects you anyway.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, right? Because data collection is the core of this issue. Big data is the reason why advertisers even have the ability to manipulate people in the first place. And I think what makes this advertising practice so unethical is the invasive way in which our data is collected. Invasive because that knowledge was practically omitted from us and not readily accessible for us to learn. And you'll notice that I'm saying is. And I'm saying is because companies like Meta are still collecting data this way, even under GDPR regulations, as they claim to collect our data under the pretense of legitimate interest. So this is still very much an existing issue that needs to be clarified.
Yeah, exactly. And, people are probably thinking, what exists to stop this misinformation? And, there are systems in place, but they're not really used properly. Meta, for example, has functional automated systems to detect this misinformation, but they're only really operational in the US and Europe, leaving the rest of the globe with a completely insufficient means to handle this.
Oh.
Means that, it's a very prevalent ethical issue.
No, okay, that's a really good point, to be fair. I guess all in all, there are quite a few ethical issues to be handled here.
Well, exactly. I mean, this is kind of why we need regulation. I mean, I guess you look like a bit of an idiot now, right?
Don't start with me. I'm up to here. Don't start with me. So we've covered these issues of manipulation, propaganda, and privacy in digital advertising. And in discussing it, I now realize that, regulation is necessary to combat these problems. And what's worrying to me is that the future appears to be more unstable, as a new initiative has been enacted by the ASA and the IAB to put advertisers in an enforcement role to keep other advertisers in check. So, essentially, we're trusting the same advertisers who are engaging in these unethical practices to enforce regulatory compliance on other advertisers. That seems legitimate, doesn't it? So, to summarize these issues in digital advertising, commercially, it is excessively profitable. Socially, it is highly unethical, and politically, it's destructive. Big thanks to my rationality Toby, who is not here anymore because he was getting a little too big for his boots. And also thank you to all the listeners for staying and hearing what I have to say. That's been my time. I hope you have a really good day, and remember to have your cat spayed, not neutered.